If you've ever told yourself this is the last time, only to find yourself back watching pornography days or even hours later, I want you to know something. Your biggest problem isn't pornography. Your biggest problem is that nobody has ever explained what's actually happening inside of your brain. Because if you're like most of the men that I work with, you're not only frustrated, you're confused. You still go to work. You still take care of your responsibilities, and you want to become the man who you know you're capable of becoming. So why does this one behavior seem so difficult? Why does it keep pulling you back? Most people answer that question by saying that you lack discipline. That's not true from a neuroscience standpoint. There is a much better scientific explanation. And once you understand it, it begins to change everything. This video is brought to you by my HarperCollins published book, Mind Over Explicit Matter. If you're ready to quit porn and reclaim your life mentally and physically, go over to drtrishleigh.com/book. One of the biggest misunderstandings about addiction is that people think their brain is working against them. It's not. Your brain is actually doing exactly what healthy brains were designed to do. Healthy brains learn. Every experience, every habit, repetition, it teaches your brain something. Think about learning to ride your bike as a child. At first, it took all the concentration in the world to do. Pedaling, steering, pace, balance, all of it. But now you can probably hop on a bike without even thinking about it. The same thing that happens with driving or typing or playing a sport you've played for a long time, even your job. So here's the key. Your brain doesn't care whether what you're practicing is healthy or unhealthy. It doesn't label behaviors as good or bad. It only recognizes repetition. Whatever you repeat, your brain becomes incredibly efficient at. So this is where pornography becomes different from almost anything else that your brain encounters. Pornography doesn't just provide sexual stimulation. It combines a variety of factors: novelty, anticipation, sexual arousal, endless variety into one single experience. Your brain doesn't process those 4 separate events. It experiences them all as one incredibly powerful lesson. And every time that lesson is repeated, the pathway back becomes stronger. I often hear dopamine described as the brain's pleasure chemical. It's not. That's too simple. Dopamine is the brain's learning chemical. Every surge of dopamine strengthens the pathway that led to it. Not because your brain is trying to create an addiction, obviously it's not, but your brain is trying to become more efficient. So it starts remembering, that worked, find the way to make it faster next time. Over time, your brain becomes remarkably efficient at noticing anything that leads back to pornography. That's why the first thing that changes isn't your behavior. It's your attention. Your mind starts making connections you never consciously intended. Certain emotions or times of day, places, even certain thoughts or people. It begins pointing your brain in one direction. And long before you decide to watch pornography, your attention has already been pulled toward it. That is the dopamine hijack. This is why so many intelligent, successful, highly motivated men struggle with pornography, because the fight isn't happening where you think it is. You wake up believing you're battling temptation, but temptation is only the symptom. The real battle, it started much earlier. For many men, their brain learned that porn meant relief before they even learned to drive a car. Your brain has been practicing returning to the same source of stimulation again and again and again. Healthy brains become incredibly efficient at whatever they repeatedly practice. So eventually your brain begins taking that pathway automatically, not because you consciously chose it, but because repetition built it. That's why simply trying harder often isn't enough. You're trying to override something your brain has spent years learning and ingraining into neural pathways. So if you've been blaming yourself, I would love for you to stop just for a moment. Because shame doesn't explain your brain. Neuroscience does. What I see over and over again with brain mapping isn't broken men. It's adaptive brains that become exceptionally good at doing exactly what they were repeatedly taught to do. If you're wanting to stop pornography addiction, this should give you incredible hope, pragmatic hope, because repetition built those pathways. A different kind of healthier repetition, that's how you can build different ones. That's exactly what I call desire rewire, helping your brain strengthen healthy reward pathways instead of those artificial ones. And it all begins with one intentional decision that I call the instant rewire. It's the moment you consciously choose real-life dopamine over artificial reward. But before I teach you how that works, there's one more thing you have to understand. The hijack, it's not the end of the story. It's only the beginning. Okay, now we know why your brain keeps going back. But here's the next question for you. You probably haven't thought this. What happens after years of practicing the same pathway? How does your brain actually develop or wire or miswire? Because over time, your reward system doesn't simply repeat a behavior. It changes its expectations. It changes what motivates you and what your arousal requires. It changes your focus. And what once felt exciting in your life maybe doesn't feel exciting anymore. That's what we're going to explore next. Because understanding the hijack, it explains why you keep going back. But understanding the miswire explains why your life begins feeling different. And once you understand both, for the first time, recovery actually makes sense. That's my goal for you. I'll see you in part 2 where we discuss the miswire, what's actually happening in your brain and how your brain has changed, adapted to that artificial stimulation in pornography. But in the meantime, if you want to discuss your situation with me, please go over to drtrishleigh.com, hit the Talk to Dr. Trish tab, schedule private time with me. I would love to help.